Cool. So we'll go ahead and go around the room and introduce ourselves. So hi, my name is Sarah Turner. I'll be your moderator this evening, senior at MSU Denver, and excited to have you guys all here.
Hi everyone, I'm Taylor. I will be doing questions on the chat, so I'm just here with Annalise to make sure everything gets answered.
Hi everyone, I'm Lauren and I will be running our small little PowerPoint for this meeting.
Right, and I am Annalisa and I will be helping Taylor with questions in the chat.
Cool. Awesome. So first and foremost, prior to starting, I just want to state if you have any questions, please post them in the chat. If you do want to ask it in our meeting, I just ask that you introduce yourself prior to asking. Friendly reminder that this is going to be recorded and will be posted to our Link and Learn website. It will also be shared on MSU Denver's School of Hospitality social media, such as LinkedIn. So first, I just want to say thank you so much to Rich for joining us today. I'm excited to get started. I know a lot of us are a little worried about what the future is to hold and hopeful, and we're happy to have you two here. That being said, would you mind introducing yourselves and talking a little bit about your background? Brandon, would you mind going first?
Yep, sure. So my name is Brandon Alcorn. I am a complex sales manager for Crestline Hotels and Resorts. I sell for 285 rooms near the Denver airport. It's 2 Marriott properties, select service over there. I graduated from CSU Hotel Management in 2018, December 2018. And so I've been in Denver now for about a year and a half or so.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I think you'll have a fresh perspective for recent graduates, such as us soon to be. So I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to help.
Awesome. Rich, I know a few of us know you, but would you mind introducing yourself?
Sure. I'm Rich Carollo. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing for the Colorado Convention Center. We're owned by the City and County of Denver, but my larger company that I work for is ASM Global. And I've been, I bounced around for about 30 years. I started at the Chicago Convention and Tourism Bureau for about 12 years, and I ran my own for 8. And then we moved to Denver at the head of the last recession. And I've been here since 2010. And again, a lot of you know me because I was a professor up through last December at MSU.
Well, awesome. I'm glad you're here. I think you'll offer a lot of insight as someone who's been in this industry for a long time. I also know that we spoke earlier and you mentioned that this is, you've been through this in 2008. So you definitely probably have experience with similarities to what happened then to what's happening now. So that'll be great.
Sure.
Can we go to the next slide, please? So we're going to start off with a couple questions. There are a couple questions that are scripted within our PowerPoint. I may not go off them in particularly as I have a few here on the side. But let's go ahead and start with this one. For both of you, how long do you think it'll take the hospitality industry to make a comeback? Rich, would you like to answer first?
It's a good question because right now everything's very fluid and information changes daily. I think it depends on what you mean by comeback and what the normal is. I probably, I know I'm on tape here, so probably at least 2 to 3 years before it gets back to where it was. I think there's going to be a lot of caution, and that could change if there's a vaccine developed and we end up going to Walgreens for our COVID shot like we do our flu shot. Then, things could obviously get back to normal a little earlier, but I think we're probably looking at it at least 2 years.
Okay. Brandon, what do you think?
Yes, he hit it spot on the timeline. I think for the hotel industry, what we've been looking at lately, for one, I think the biggest thing is rate integrity. So the hotels, and this is something I was not old enough, but that we learned in 2008 was if hotels drop prices so low, it's going to take even longer to come back. So that's one thing that we're kind of looking at is we do want people to stay in our hotel now, but if we start dropping really low, it's just going to take that much longer to get back. I I think this summer we actually are still projecting to get quite a lot of leisure travelers. We think when this starts to open up, we will still get those people. We're by the airport, so we will see if that really affects us. But I do not think business travel will come back the same for at least 2 to 3 years as well.
Yeah.
I could see that. We've had a couple of these virtual meetings, and I mentioned this a couple times, but someone joked that we're never going to shake hands ever again, which I thought was so silly to think about. But when you really think about it, the countries that are, reacting the best to this are the ones who have less contact with each other. So Japan, bow or they nod their heads. Italy, they've stopped kissing each other on the cheek. So it makes me wonder how culture is going to evolve over time with this, if it'll just be a seasonal thing or if it's just like, we just don't go out for 2 months out of the year.
Well, and now I think there's also this, not necessarily, well, there's some guilt if you're going to send your employees to travel and they do get sick, then how is that going to make your company look and you feel and your employees? So I think it'll take a bit for business travel to start back up.
I could see that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I joked in March when we were getting cancellations, and I joked about bowing, and everybody still makes fun of me about that. But I really think that you're right. I think the tendency to touch each other, in a handshake or hug format is going to lessen. And what I find humorous is they've been telling you to, bump elbows, right? But on the other hand, they tell you to sneeze into your elbow. So I don't know if I want to bump elbows if you're sneezing into your elbow. I think we should just kind of step back a little bit. So
I've been seeing like the toe tap is the new thing people are doing, and I'm like, I don't want to touch your foot. What if I wear toe shoes and the summertime? Like, I don't know. Lauren, could we go to the next slide, please? Awesome. So second question for you guys. Rich, as someone who's over 2 years or trying to get into this industry, such as event management major, hospitality, tourism, restaurant?
I think you have to have, what I remember from my teaching experience is seeing a lot of people from one year to the next is what they wanted to do when I first saw them was completely different than what they wanted to do when they were a senior. And I think that continues as you get into the hospitality industry. You're gonna think you want to work for a venue or a company, this, that, or the other, and you're going to find out maybe that's not right for you. And I think what you have to remember is that the hospitality industry, the events industry, is a large industry. So if you don't like your first job, that's okay. You can move on to something else. The important thing is that you get experience so that you are you get that background in whatever you're doing. You will find something you like, but I wouldn't be disappointed if you go out your first time, even your second time, and find something that you're just not liking. It all fits together, and your experience that you're getting is invaluable during those years. I would also say, as somebody that hires people, I know it's common nowadays. It wasn't common when I came up. It's more common nowadays to job hop a lot. It's not really a neat thing for somebody that's hiring somebody to see a resume with 5 different jobs on it the last 2 years. That tells me that you're not you're looking for the next opportunity. You're not really committed to something. It's okay to change jobs, but if you have 5 or 6 different jobs on your resume in the last 3 years, you might want to stop and rethink some things. I recently hired for a position, and unfortunately that person has been laid off due to this. But one of the resumes I got was from somebody who started a position in November and was already interviewing for a new job in January. So I wasn't too keen on trying to interview that person. I should add that they also left another job in August for this current job. They started in November. So I would say have some patience with your jobs. Don't job hop. Have some patience.
I joined a meeting last week and I got to ask one of our speakers something similar. And her answer was similar to yours, is learn humility, because you might be doing something you didn't expect to do when you got out of college. And it's something that's more prevalent now because there aren't as many opportunities. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon, as a recent graduate yourself, what advice do you have for upcoming graduates trying to get into this field in the next couple months or so?
Yeah. Oh, I feel so horrible.
I
just graduated a year ago. So the one thing I will say that is a huge positive to start with is I do think this is something that you guys will have as like a gold star on your resume forever. I mean, the fact, like I graduated as the millennial who had never gone through anything. And so when this first happened, like the first thing that clicked in my head was, all right, here's something that I've gone through. I didn't think it'd be this bad. But so I think that's something that the class of 2020 has to keep in mind, is positive wise, is you do have that. I'm not saying that's amazing right now, but it's something that'll stick with you forever that you can say you got through. In terms of advice, it helps that you guys are still going through classes. But I would say any extra learning you can do at all. I mean, especially if you have spare time. Like right now, it's not going amazing, but I'm trying to teach myself Spanish. I think it would be really beneficial. So I think there's so many online free courses, stuff like that. And then the biggest thing I think too is to continue to network. I mean, every job that I've gotten in the last 10 years has been from networking 100%.
That's awesome. And I feel like that's a good tidbit to add as well, making sure that you're learning an additional skill while this is all going on. I had a colleague of mine, she's might be in the chat, Lily, joked like, after this, we're all coming out veterans. I'm like, you're right, though, because this is something you can put on your resume forever. But I think you're also learning an additional skill because you never know where it's going to be handy or useful. Harvard offering certificate classes for free online right now for some of their business schools and psychology schools. And Rosetta Stone is like trying to encourage people staying online by dropping the prices for learning a different language. So I think that's cool that we've kind of adjusted to that as a whole, and it'll be something that we can progress and move forward with as well. Could we go to the next slide? Thank you. Rich, for your third question, I wanted to ask, what similarities do you see to the 2008 recession or any other recessions you have encountered to now?
When I started in the industry, I was in the middle of a recession. It was my first one that I could recall. They tend to happen every 10 years or so it's like a roller coaster. This one took a little longer to come. I guess we're not technically in a recession yet, or in a depression, or whatever you want to call it. But that one, I got the job at the Convention Bureau because my other job, which was an internship at a company called United States Gypsum, who makes all the wallboard for houses, the economy was going through a recession and they laid everybody off. And I was referred to somebody at the Convention Bureau, and I spent the next 12 years of my life there. And from 90 to 92, 93-ish, it didn't come back until 92, 93. And then we had the dot-com crash in 2000, end of 2000 into 2001. It was followed by 9/11. Still have habits from that, and we're still taking off our shoes at the airport after because of what happened in 9/11. And then we had that one took a while to get back. I think we were about 2003, 2004 until that one came back, and you had a very small amount of time, just a couple of years, and then toward the end of 2007 we had this housing crash, and that lasted a long time. I don't think it was much before 2011, 2012 till we came back. This one's pretty bad. I can't say I did not see the layoffs and the just utter devastation to people's lives like I've seen with this. Certainly people lost their jobs, but, not for a long period of time. I mean, events weren't canceled for a long period of time. I was in the airport a month after 9/11 going to a travel industry conference. It might have took 3 hours to get through security, but there was no hesitation in travel. I saw something the other day. Somebody walked through DIA and it was a ghost town. There was nobody going through there. And I don't know that I hope I never see anything like this. I'm going to be 50 this year. And I think, like Brandon said, I think you guys are in a good position that you're going through this early in your careers, and you have some, experience with this, and you can have some predictive things as you get older. We didn't have any of this. I mean, a recession, it's like, yeah, I'd rather have a recession than what we're going through now, because it was less devastating. During a recession, you had less people go to events. Now you don't have anybody going to events. So what we're doing now is, are they going to allow 50-person events? Are they going to allow 100-person events? When do you get from 50 to 100? When do you get from 100 to 1,000? When you get from 1,000 to 5,000? I mean, we're at events 30, 40, 50,000 people deep, and I don't know when we'll have those again. So it's extremely different than any of the three that I've been through in my professional career, and I hope this is the last one that I have to go through with this level of devastation. It's just awful.
I posted a link in here earlier, and Dr. Jung, if you're here, I want to say thank you. You did share it on LinkedIn. They started putting out statistics for how the event industry has been affected thus so far. And a lot of it was that smaller meetings are going to be more revenue producing compared to larger meetings, because it's harder to gauge how you're going to have like 1,000 people in a convention center. Do you have them 6 feet apart? Do you have them wearing masks? Do you have them wearing gloves? How do you make them comfortable? What about your food standards? Like, it's so much easier when you have a group of 20 people, because you know what you can do. But you're right. The bigger the groups get, what are you going to do? So that'll be interesting to see how it progresses over time as well.
It will, and I think for the first time that I've been at the convention center, we'll probably be looking at things like weddings and those other things that are more short term. I know a lot of people, if anybody's on here that got their wedding displaced, see me after this, and I can probably get you a rockin' deal in the fall.
That's awesome. Brandon, I want to go a little off script for a second. I know that you said that this was really your first recession that you're going through. So we talked yesterday, and you were talking about how you're learning a couple different positions. In our prior meeting, I had mentioned that I've seen a lot of a trend as directors or higher up managers getting laid off compared to their lower counterparts, because like front desk people, you need those people, or if you need someone to go clean rooms, or if you need, an engineer, those are the people you need to keep. You don't need someone who's in operations and stuff. So for multiple positions in this field, how are you adjusting as a new graduate in that?
Yeah, well, I guess to start with, the reason our management company decided to keep sales, which obviously it benefited me, but I think it's very smart, is they're just trying to look towards the future. Mm-hmm. So even though it's been just destroyed, I went from 120% to negative 40. I think right now I checked. I don't even know why I checked today at what my sales goal was. It was very stupid. But their thought is, why get rid of the people who are the revenue generators in the hotel? Exactly. And so the first day I heard that, I was like, okay, wow, I really need to do something. So it's been a little depressing on the front desk. I started out at front desk, and it was so fun. You're like the first person people see when they come in. And people aren't as excited to be staying at a hotel right now. We get a lot of pilots who are miserable, which is, it's actually super awkward checking people in. We have like a piece of plexiglass. We have tables, so they have to be really far away. There's like, I'll try cracking a joke. There's nothing. But the positive is I get to see who's coming into our hotel and what company they work for or why they're traveling. And that's actually led to our hotel gaining another 15% occupancy because we actually found an airline that I've never heard of that didn't actually have a hotel. And the guy didn't want to drive all the way downtown. He wanted to go close to the airport. So we kind of hopped on that and then called around to their union. So I think that's the positive, is learning that. And I also think for other people who haven't done these positions in a long time, you start to really get a huge respect for the people who do it. Like the other day I had to clean a room, and I cleaned like one room and I was dying, absolutely dying. And the housekeepers we have on a normal year are cleaning 30 rooms a day. And I did one and I was like about to pass out. So I think that's one thing, is you do gain a huge respect for the people you lost. But I think at least for me, it's helped a lot to see who's all coming to our hotel.
I think you touched on a very important subject, which is that being you don't realize who's essential in your hotel until you have to do their job in particular. I can't imagine how, particularly, as you know, I work for Marriott as well. I don't speak for them. However, I've had to switch to a task force as an overnight auditor. And I was just talking with my GM yesterday. I'm like, I can't imagine how the housekeepers are doing when they don't have rooms to clean. But the ones that are here, a lot of the time, most housekeepers are either through like a third party company. Sometimes they're working on being a documented citizen. So add all that to the mix and then add coronavirus. It's like, we should have brought you guys pizza every day. Another question I have for you, Brandon. So I don't know if people know, but can you tell a couple people about Marriott Next Gen and what it is? I know that's how you and I know each other.
Yeah. So last year, there's the Business Council in Colorado, which is the general managers of the Marriott hotels. And it's mainly Denver, but there's some other pieces to it. I've started kind of a council, and it's kind of involved with community service, government affairs, stuff like that. And Chad, GM of the Courtyard Denver Airport, has ran that for a couple of years now. He wanted to start a new organization. Unfortunately, the first year, Chad named it the Millennial Council, which was like the worst thing in the world ever. We had like six members for a full year. So coming into 2020, Kelsey, who is our chair, and then I'm the vice chair, we renamed it to Next Gen. And we instantly had, I think right now we have like 60 or 70 people that are working with us. And we had some people a couple months ago who didn't know we used to be called the Millennial Council. And when they figured that out, they laughed about it. So I'm very happy we got rid of that name. We had a lot planned for 2020, unfortunately, but essentially what we're doing is it's the next generation of leaders for Marriott, that we want to do the same thing. We want to do community service. We want to speak with government officials. We want to speak with general managers. We want to network. We want to do the whole thing that I still think gets missed out for the younger generation. And we just thought it was one more thing that we could do to bring people together, because in the end, and it's become very apparent now, even though you're competing against these other hotels, you're really all on the same team. If you're all not doing, if one or two hotels are not doing good, you're probably not doing good either.
Right.
And it didn't seem like it until, like right now we have a comp set, but it's not even really a comp set anymore. We're kind of all rooting for each other. So I think that's kind of the same thing we felt, even though we're all from different Marriott hotels, we're all still with Marriott.
And that's something that's kind of made me think of another question for you and for Rich. Are you a part of any other organization outside of Next Gen? I know there's MPI out there and a couple other meeting planner, hotel, or hospitality like groups. And have they been helping you? Do you think this is beneficial for students to have once they are done, even in the midst of this crisis?
So I got a quick one, and then I'll let Rich take over. So the one I'm with, that I've been with for about a year now, is Make-A-Wish Colorado. In terms of benefiting me in the job world, not a lot, but in terms of like the kids I get to help, it's just I can't describe a better feeling, honestly. And they're looking for people all the time. And right now it's even worse because all those kids for this year have had their wishes canceled. So it's they're actually starting a new fundraiser in 2 weeks. And if you don't have me on LinkedIn, please follow me and I'll post it. It's one of those things where they got to really see what they can do. Trying to get through cancer and things like that is hard enough on its own.
Yeah.
And then you add this pandemic and then you have your wish canceled. So what they're trying to do now is just kind of bring back that happiness and excitement. So other than that, with Next Gen and Make-A-Wish, that's pretty much what I do.
I like that you answered something that helps with your career and something that helps with your soul. I feel like that's important on both ends of the spectrum. Rich, what about yourself?
I've been involved with a few organizations over my career. I was heavily involved with the Travel and Tourism Research Association when I was younger, and what is now the called Destinations International. Right now, I'm involved with International Association of Venue Managers. Some relatively sterile group, but I'm hopeful that groups like that and Association of Exposition managers are going to come to the table with some protocols and things that we can use as venue managers to kind of keep things alive. And I feel kind of bad because I'm not really involved with anything for my soul, and I do have a soul, but I'm not really nurturing it, I guess, as much as I should. But I know through our company, we have a volunteer program, and we work with a lot of organizations over the years. To either help clean up Food Bank of the Rockies. We've done organizations will get together and you have a contest on who can stuff enough bags of food for people, and that's kind of fun. And what's the organization? I'm forgetting right now, but we get involved with a lot of those, whether it's feeding. We have this one organization that puts food together for dogs, and so we'll do that over the course of a year. So I guess that helps feed my soul. But it's personally outside of my life, I don't have anything like Brandon, so I probably should.
Well, and with that, you did ask earlier what graduating seniors can do to help get in the workforce, and I do think if end of May and June come and you do not have a job, I would say go find something to volunteer with. The networking with volunteering is insane too. There's plenty of people in hospitality that are doing it. It gives you something to do. It's going to make you feel good, and people do really need it right now.
Yeah, I've personally had the opportunity with myself to volunteer with a couple nonprofits over the past 5 to 7 years, and even all of them are unpaid, just as a forewarning.
Yeah.
But I did learn valuable skills. I can go back. If I ever need a job in the future, I know I can call someone. And most of those times, those organizations are international. Like I worked for a type 2 diabetes foundation, and they're all across the United States. So I could apply for those jobs in the future. So I thought that was kind of cool too. And Brandon, that kind of leads into my next question. I know the Marriott offers the Voyager program. For those who don't know what it is, it's essentially a 12 to 18-month contract where you can apply to with Marriott and learn minor management skills within certain industries, whether you're going to be a chef or you want to be a restaurant manager or a hotel manager or even events. Do you think Marriott will continue to offer this Voyager program or internship to recent graduates? If so, students make themselves stand out as applicants? And you kind of already answered that, joining an organization.
At least with the standing out part. So for one, I will say I don't completely know. They've been pretty secretive about things like that. I would be stunned if they discontinued it. In my opinion, it would be very stupid of them to do that. Mm-hmm. I can't think of a better way to build your organization than starting it like that. I think it'll hurt them a bit that the full service hotels are doing much worse than the select service hotels. And a lot of the Voyager program is put into full service hotels.
That's very
so I think that will strain them a bit. However, the select service hotels are going to need just as much help. So I would think this summer they relook at it, because even with this happening, everyone in the back of their head knows that this will end at some point. And if you're not building your organization, then you're not moving forward. And I can't imagine Marriott would not want to be doing that. So I would think at some point they will restart it. I don't know if it would happen until this summer.
And I do want to note that's not just for Marriott. I feel like that goes for a lot of hotels, a lot of event management programs. I've personally seen a couple positions where I've applied to, and you have people get back to you like, unfortunately, we have to put this on hold at the moment. But that doesn't mean that they won't open it or change it to an online platform in the future. So here's to hoping for that.
Yeah, I do think when the hiring freeze ends, whenever that is, whether that's May or June or July, is when they will start to reopen these kind of programs. But
well, here's to hoping.
Yeah, I know.
Could we go to the next slide, please? So fourth and final question, I'll ask you guys a couple questions and then I will answer up, open up the chat for people to ask. In the meantime, if you guys want to write your questions on the side while I'm asking them these ones, that's fine, or get ready to introduce yourself after. For both of you, how do you feel about having to adapt to different positions rapidly? Do you find it refreshing to get like different outlooks on the industry? Like Rich, I know you were going from like a manager on duty to sales, and Brandon, you were going from front desk to sales back and forth.
I'll let Brandon go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I kind of talked about it earlier. It's been a kind of roller coaster of emotions. With it's fun to go back to front desk. I did it for 2 years. It was my first thing I did in hotels. It's not so fun because the people I'm checking in really don't want to be staying with us, or they don't want to be talking in general. So that's the kind of downside of that. It's really helping my job in sales because I am learning who is coming to our hotel, and it's making me appreciate the complaints, the 30 phone calls a night, the just crazy things that happen in a hotel that I never see because I'm in an office or doing something with sales. It's definitely refreshing to see again things I missed in the last year and a half.
Okay, cool. Rich, what do you think for yourself?
It's a good thing. I mean, for me, I'm waiting on something to happen with the hospital, and that's some operations experience, which will be invaluable to me as I get into the end part of my career. But in the past, adapting to new things is kind of vital to keeping yourself going forward. I think if you get settled in on a specific job, that you don't really grow as much. And I think what this experience, it's kind of neat to go back and, I'm one of 2 people left in my department. I had to furlough and then lay everybody off, and so now I'm doing different types of contracts and different types of sales that I haven't done in a couple of years. I'm back to doing social media. So if it's really bad, it's my fault. And learning that, and not so much learning it, but getting it up to speed. And it's just, it's refreshing. When I moved to Denver, I did not have a job. I was cocky about it, and thought I could get a job here based on my degree and my experience, and I wasn't able to do it. And I got a job at PetSmart, which I kind of went back to in the last couple of months. But I got a job at PetSmart, and it was very humbling to me to kind of wake up at 5 a.m. and go clean bird cages, or if we had dogs, and mop urine off the floor and different things. It's a humbling experience, but it was very rewarding, and it made you kind of take stock of your life, and it's you can get comfortable too easy in a position, and I think that this, in some way, if there's any good, and I think you had silver linings on one of your questions. I think the silver lining of all of this is it gives us the opportunity to step outside our comfort zone and get a little uncomfortable again and appreciate what we have that much more.
I think that's humbling to hear, and I don't know if I speak for my other student collegiate people in here, but it's humbling to hear from someone who's been in the industry for a long time to hear that you're struggling as well. Not that I want to see you fail or anything like that, but just to hear that, like, hey, we're all in this together. I'm struggling myself. I've been doing this for 20 plus years. Like, you guys just got to keep pushing. At the end of the day, you still have to get up, get out of bed, be thankful for the clothes on your back, the food on your table, and the people in your life, and just keep doing whatever you can keep doing to survive.
There's the
Winston.
There's the Winston Churchill quote: "If you're going through hell, keep going." And it's very, very good advice for today's times.
I think it's very relevant. That being said, I'm not going to ask our last question as of yet. I do want to open the floor to any students who are listening who may have any questions. Please enter in the chat or go ahead and ask now. Just introduce yourself.
Everybody's stunned.
I know. They're like, oh God, I have to talk now?
Or they're on mute.
Or they are on mute, I guess, huh? Not everybody jump up all at once. Well, if people don't have any questions.
I have a question. This is Steve Adams here. Sorry for the beard. Rich, you dealing with this hospital. How do you feel they've handled that and the construction of it? Do you feel like it's been pretty good or kind of a little wacko?
Well, in this particular instance, good and wacko are kind of one of the same. I joked with them the other week that if our contract, if we had contractors put up trade shows this quickly, we could get a ton more things in every year. I mean, to see the speed and the efficiency and just the pleasantness, the way that these people went about their work it was just awesome to see what they did and the amount of time that they did it. And it's really, I'd be less than honest to say it's really kind of strange to see my exhibit halls full of hospital beds instead of, comic book vendors or, beer vendors or whatever, it's just different.
Right. Thank you.
I know we can't go into too much detail due to legality reasons, but for some students don't know what's going on with the convention center. Can you talk a little bit about how you guys are adjusting to COVID-19 with business?
Sure. So we this started I want to say the beginning of March, where the orders came down from the city and the state. And we were closed through May 11th, no mass gatherings through May 11th. And then last month, there was always, what's really funny is that a month ago, everybody was on social media. Oh, you should turn the center into a hospital. You should turn the center into a hospital. Now we turn the center into a hospital, and it's like, oh, why'd you turn it into a hospital? And so it's one of those things that you're never going to win. And I think at the time you were looking at California, you were looking at New York, you were looking at a lot of places that were struggling with this virus, and the hospitals are over capacity. And I think this state, as well as states like Florida, Miami Beach, and Baltimore, and a couple other places across the country, took their Chicago, my hometown. Took their convention centers and turned them into alternative care facilities, not for the most serious cases, but for people that, didn't need hospitalization but needed recovery in a place. And so, we're ready to go. We're technically on tap for May 15th to receive our first patient, and we don't know. We may never receive patients, and you know what? That's a good thing. And if we don't ever receive a patient, that's a good thing. I don't think anybody should be complaining, because then what would happen is if we didn't build this and we did have an overflux of hospitals, then people would be complaining that we didn't build it, right? And there's not a we're just there as the convention center. We're helping from an operations standpoint to keep this thing up and alive. The real people, the Army Corps of Engineers and the contractors and now the state are the people that bear a lot of the credit in building this thing. I never thought I would see anything like this, but it's just basically on the exhibit hall level. It's nowhere else in the convention center. And I think what we're dealing with now is the initial order for the hospital runs through June 30th. So we don't know if that order will be extended or if it'll end on June 30th. We don't know if it ends on June 30th, if we get our convention center back and clean and sparkly like it was. Well, maybe not sparkly, but if we get it back to the way it was before we gave it to them, or if the order ends on June 30th and then they take a couple weeks to clean stuff up and give it back to us. We don't know that. And we also don't know what we'll be allowed to do from a mass gathering standpoint. And, it's kind of hinting that based on everything we've talked about tonight and based on a lot of articles that it's hinting that we won't be able to have some of the ones that we were anticipating for this year. And it's really disappointing for us because we had a really busy year. We have a really packed year in 2021, and we don't know how that's going to affect next year. And so the hospital situation for us is one that we are coping with, but then we're also, what I'm doing, what my colleague Greg is doing, and those of you who took my class, you heard from Greg. We're the two people left in convention sales there. We're and also the only two people that have been working on the future. Everybody else has been working on the hospital. But now we're the ones working out into 23, into 26, into 2032, booking groups, trying to get deposits, trying to keep some cash flow coming into the convention center. So the hospital is a good thing, whether we receive patients or not, because if I know a lot of people look down at it, why did you build it? If we didn't build it, then people would say, why didn't you build it? So it's one of those things, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And at the end of the day, at the end of the day, if you don't, if we don't use it, it's not a bad thing. We had it and didn't need it. That's the best news you could ever hear.
I like that perspective, and I think you're right. Like, what if this gets worse and we don't have a place to put anybody? It's kind of like I can't remember what sporting event. Soccer has like a major event every 4 years.
World Cup.
And they had the World Cup in Brazil, and there's that giant stadium they built, and now it's just sitting there. But at the time being, it was great because they needed it. I mean, the industry and the country made so much money. So yes, it's still just standing there. However, it's a relic of like how much money was brought into the country to like help them in times of poverty. So I think that's kind of a good perspective for that.
And one thing to add really quickly, it gave people jobs. And, the prospect of jobs, if we used it for hospitalization or some other purpose, it put some people back to work, if only for a month or so, but people received paychecks. So that was another positive aspect of it.
Okay. Brandon, I have a question here from Shelby Hebden, and Shelby, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's for Brandon and maybe Rich, but she said, I was wondering, how do you handle guests who clearly just don't want to be there?
Yeah, that's been interesting. Well, for one, we also have to, in the back of our head, we have to keep in mind that we don't know who's coming into our hotel that's sick and not sick. So that's one thing. So we've kind of, to begin with, start with, if they're not wanting to be there or act like they don't want to be there, it could be that. So with that, we're giving them a lot of space, stuff like that, putting them at the end of the halls. But I think right now people, especially with the distancing aspect, I think, and with hotels, they just want to see some compassion and some hospitality, which is, I think, lacking a little bit right now. And I don't think that's purposeful, but I don't think it's in some situations possible to show. But I think just giving someone a smile and welcoming them into the hotel, whether they acknowledge it now or not, I think they will think about it at some point, because I don't think there's a lot of that going around. Minus grocery stores, I haven't seen it a lot going around.
Very true.
So I think just showing them some happiness.
I feel like no matter what the situation is, as long as you deal with it with a smile on your face, as even whatever comes through the door and whatever hits the fan, you can get through it. So I think it's a positive perspective. I do have a question for both of you here from Jeremy A. For both of you, what kinds of things have you been doing to attract revenue in short term just to keep business going? And I know you kind of answered that, Rich, with the hospital and whatnot. But is there any other kind of things you guys are trying to do outside of medical?
Everything. And it kind of goes with what Rich said. We were talking about this today in our meeting with our corporate vice president. It's a good thing for Colorado, but 3 weeks ago, we were emailing, contacting medical, government, stuff like that, thinking that we were going to have a similar situation as New York or California, and it did not get that bad, which is totally positive. I would rather take it that way. But once we realized that a couple of days ago, we kind of went back to square one, and that's kind of what we're figuring out now is who is traveling, who is still moving around, because we were originally trying to get people at our hotel that were here to help during this crisis. But right now it doesn't seem like there's a lot of that, but there still is people traveling. So we're just trying to figure out who.
I shared this on LinkedIn the other day, which I do just want to say, if you don't have a LinkedIn and you're here, you should totally get one. I bet both of these men will just state that's the great way to keep, networking and keep connected with people. And you never know when the next opportunity may arise in your career or after school. Oh shoot, I just lost my question. Hold on. One of the things that one of a hotel I saw was doing was they were trying to do business rates for the day. So like a guest will walk in and they'll do like a $49 rate or a $39 rate from 8 to 5, which I think is interesting because for some businesses, like I can't imagine parents at home right now are probably going nuts with their kids. They're like, oh my God, I can pay to be away from them and have some peace and quiet for like 8 hours. That sounds great. So I know that's one marketing tactic that's going around.
We tried. It didn't hit a lot, but I'm hoping when the state order does May 8th and what cities, that we will start to get those people. I did have a mom call me last week and said that if she didn't get a hotel room last weekend, we were going to see her on the news because she was going to kill her husband. So I think there is people and I think Americans are eager to travel and do these things, but it's just waiting for that time.
That's too funny. I've joked with my fiance that I'm like, honey, by the end of this, we're either going to be married or I'm going to kill you. There's no in between. And so far, we're getting along very well. So that kind of leads me to another question I got. So far for Colorado, they have pushed back the stay-at-home order until May 8th. A lot of people are thinking that is too soon to open the state. If we do, they might push it back again. But let's say hypothetically, Colorado opens on May 8th. You're allowed to go out. Small businesses are open, like gyms, like a TJ Maxx or something like that. Do you think people will continually, will get sick? Do you think it'll affect events to not progress even further on a timeline, or hotels or anything?
It's hard to say. I think from a psychological standpoint, people are just not going to be ready to go to mass gatherings. I think they're going to dip their toe in the water and go back. I think, what was said earlier with leisure travel coming back first is correct. I think people are tired of staying in their house. If I get out of the house for 8 hours, go somewhere and get away from my wife and kids, sign me up. I don't want to go to my office because it's too damn depressing. There's nobody there anymore. I'm looking at I'm looking at my marketing manager's door. She still has the welcome to the team things up on her door. I mean, it's depressing. I don't want to go there. And I certainly don't want to stay here. So if you have those 8-hour rates, let me know. I definitely want to take advantage of that. But I think,
can talk after this. You just let one of us know.
Yeah. So I think, again, I think there's going to be trepidation on people's parts. People are then coming to something like that. I think the local events are going to be key. And I think they're also going to be looking to us for what protocols we're putting in place to make people feel safe. And when you go to Target or King Soopers now, you're being held at the door before you can go in. Once you get in, there's somebody spraying down carts. Whether or not that does anything, I think it gives you a sense of comfort. It might be window dressing, but it's great window dressing because it gives you some sort of comfort that when you're going in, they're doing something to make your experience safe. I know King Soopers, and if anybody's been to King Soopers, you know that they have the aisle markers now. You're supposed to go one way down an aisle, and people screw that up religiously. But I think it's neat that they're trying something, and they're trying psychologically to keep. Yeah, and you frown at it. You're like, God, it's like the people that pull down the parking, in the parking lot down the wrong way. You're looking at them going, hey, But I think it's going to be perspective as much as you can do. To make people comfortable to coming to your facility, that they're going to be safe, I think is going to be key.
Yeah, I think it kind of goes along with what he's saying is I think they can lift a state order, but that doesn't necessarily mean everything's going to go back. As in like Georgia this last weekend had theirs lifted and most of their businesses didn't even reopen. So I don't know if the state order means as much as the other things going on. So until people feel safe, the state order at this point, it can mean a lot of things.
I keep wondering if I'm like, oh, maybe I should go outside and go get something, or if I'm going to stay at home and just let the first wave of people weed their own problems out because I don't want to be involved in it. But
yeah, I wonder how much people will do that.
So I have another question here from Caitlin K. She says, hello, my name is Katie. I am wondering, what is your favorite part about working in events and your least favorite part about working in events during this pandemic?
My most favorite part is I still have a job, Katie. That's what my favorite part of the whole thing is. The worst part was having to lay all my staff off and sitting here on Friday night hearing ding after ding after ding, which represented the emails that went to the staff telling them, hey, you don't have a job as of next week. That sucked. And I don't want to ever have to go through it again. But yeah, my favorite part is still having a job and seeing how nice the clients are for a change, how understanding that they are about things like not being able to get their deposits back for a couple months or not being able to get their contract back for a while because you're the only person, and people have some general compassion that they didn't have 2 months ago. So those would be my answers.
Yeah, we had absolutely every single meeting besides one canceled for 2020. So that would be the negative. I think the only positive I can think about is me and my director of sales were talking today is it sets some sort of challenge. I mean, at this point, you got to strive to achieve something. We seriously have one meeting for all of this year, and it is a 6-person meeting in August. So it dropped dramatically, and right now with the Gaylord closed indefinitely, that's a huge part of our business, and it was in 2019. So we're really just trying to figure out what we can go moving forward.
I work at the Sheridan myself prior to being furloughed. Again, I do not speak for them, but Katie, I'd like to answer your question as well. One of my favorite parts about working in events thus so far, even though I was furloughed from my position, I love that my team is checking on everyone. And I don't know if that goes for you, Brandon, for you, Rich, but even if it's a small text or if it's a small email like, hey, because we're also under renovation, check out our new carpet. We wanted to involve you guys. We just want to let you guys know we're thinking of you. We appreciate everything you do. Like just making sure you check on your people, which is why I think a lot of us get into this field, because hospitality, I mean, you can walk into a hotel and you can get checked in anytime or go to an event. But working in hospitality is making people feel special. And that doesn't only go for the people that you bring in, it's for the people you work with as well. Least favorite part, if I'm being completely honest, is adjusting to night audit hours. It's weird being awake from like 11 p.m. to 7 o'clock in the morning and then sleeping from like 8 to 1. And I'm just like, I don't know what day it is anymore. It's been an adjustment. Does anybody else have any other questions for Brandon and Rich? Last minute questions? And Katie says, thank you for your answer to Rich and Brandon. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a quick question. This is Dimitri. I just graduated in December, and I had a job at a hotel, and I was part of the people that got laid off. So I was just wondering, do you have like any advice, just like where the industry is going, and what's the best thing I could do, just next couple months, or not months, hopefully, but is there anything they recommend people that have been laid off, who just graduated from school, just getting into the industry? Like where the industry is going, what's the best way to go about it, if there's any big differences coming up that we should be aware of, stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, to begin with, I think you, at least for the next foreseeable future, for the next month or two, you have to be really flexible. It's not going to sound fun, but the people that are willing to do the night audit shifts and the housekeeping shifts and the front desk shifts are going to be the ones that are going to get hired when this does rebound. And I think this kind of goes what I said at the start, finding ways to improve your resume. And it doesn't have to be spending money on another degree. It can be very small things, and to improve yourself. Even like I do think a lot of interviews are going to be over this kind of thing moving forward. So learning how to do interviews through a computer is super challenging. So I think things like that, next couple of weeks, anything you can do to better yourself and to become indispensable. If you can do any job in a hotel, you're going to be ahead of a lot of applicants, because there's a lot of people that are not willing to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Is this Dimitri Iwashiko? I'm sorry, I can never say the last name.
Correct, yeah. Close.
Okay, hi. I thought that was you. I'm like, I only know one Dimitri.
I know.
One thing
Hi,
one thing I posted on LinkedIn is that that article thought that a lot of recent graduates are going to be doing better in this compared to people who have been in this industry for a long time. Sorry, Rich. Because a lot of us have grown up with social media. A lot of us have been marketing ourselves since we were kids. So it's going to be a little easier going from having to market yourself to marketing an event. So I feel as though if you can adjust to that and learn these platforms how to have a virtual meeting, you'll be successful in the long run as well.
Well, and with that, with the amount of people that did get furloughed, there is a ton of jobs and people who left the hotel industry that probably will not return. So it looks really dark now, but in the future, this could end up being really awesome for you guys. There could be positions that you would have never been a year ago, you would have never been qualified for. But if there's no one there to rehire, they're going to have to start looking elsewhere, which would be you guys. You guys have that step up with having that degree. I will say the experience means just as much, but there is going to be people that never return to the hospitality industry. So those positions will be there.
And that kind of leads me to one more question. Rich, during the 2008 recession, I kind of like what Brandon said, people dropped off the face of the planet for hospitality because they had to. They had bills to pay, families to feed, and food to put on the table. People who have been furloughed, do you think they will return? And if not, do you think those are good opportunities for students to apply, even if they're not qualified for them?
Yeah, I think people will return. They want to return. They might return in a different capacity because those openings will be available. It's kind of hard, especially at my age, to switch industries and switch careers and make the same living that you have, right? So I think the opportunity. And what was just said, I think there's going to be a variety of positions open. I do think people will return to it because that's what I mean, I've been in it for 30 years. I don't know. I mean, aside from working at PetSmart, which is not going to pay me what I'm making at the convention center, I'm not going to be able to, feed my family working, full time as a cashier. But I mean, working in a DMO, working in a venue, that stuff will come back, and it'll come back in a hurry, and there will be some opportunities for people that maybe didn't have them before, but there will be opportunities for people like myself to fill some positions where maybe I didn't think I was qualified for them. And so Maybe 3 months ago I thought, this is my ceiling, and all of a sudden your ceiling gets lifted. So there's gonna be opportunities out there, Dimitri. I just tell you to hang on, have some patience, especially in the hotel world. That's going to come back. Leisure travelers are going to come back. They're going to need people like you that have some experience to come back and do some things at a hotel. You just got to have some patience, unfortunately, and yeah.
Well, and to add with that, one more thing I do have is the position I'm in right now. If you look at the application, I was not qualified. I did not have the experience. Not even close. I think they wanted 4 years of sales experience. I had 0. So with that, don't go crazy with applying to everything, but don't count yourself out for positions. The reason I was told that I got hired was my interview and the fact that I applied with no experience. The VP of sales said she had never seen that, and she said, "Oh, well, let's interview him." So don't go applying for crazy things. But sometimes when you post jobs, you're required to post pretty crazy requirements. Our sales coordinator, we had to put 2 years of sales experience. I don't know how that's possible, because the sales coordinator is like the first position you can get, at least with us. So how is that possible? Well, the kid we hired was front desk for a year, and he had a great interview, and we hired him. So don't get discouraged by job postings. For some reason, and I don't know when this will change, but a lot of them are massive lies with what, and I think that's to weed out some people, and don't go applying for things that are crazy, but don't count yourself out, because it very well could happen.
It's an HR thing, to be honest with you. You can't have fun with the marketing job description. You'd think you could have fun with it. You can't have fun with it. You have to list all this stuff, which, like you said, they may or may not do. It's a corporate HR decision, and they're covering their ass in case somebody gets hired and they don't like the description is something that it wasn't intended to be. So it's got to be very vanilla and very boring. But you're absolutely right. I mean, just go for it.
Yep.
Thank you, Brandon.
It really can't hurt anything.
No.
Don't be embarrassed to do it. I promise you that. You will regret it if you don't, because you'll start seeing people get jobs that they were not, quote unquote, qualified for.
I don't know if I speak for Dimitri or my other students, but I appreciate that insight. I can't tell you how frustrating it is when you look at jobs on LinkedIn or anywhere else, and they're like, hey, you need to have 2 years of experience, a bachelor's degree, and we pay $13 an hour. And you're like, what?
My senior year, that's how it felt. I was going through it, and then finally, my current boss I met at our CSU networking event, and she was like, "Well, why haven't you applied?" And I said, "Well, you need 4 years of experience," and I had none. She's like, "I don't care." So I applied, and it took 2 weeks after that. And she even said that. She's like, I didn't even know it said. She had no idea that that's what it said. And she's the one that was looking at the applicants. So, like he said, it's a HR corporate thing, and don't be afraid to apply for things.
So we should apply, because it's the nice way of someone telling us, you have a great personality. We're going to give you a chance. But professionally, And
that worked for me, because like I said, I knew nothing about sales at all. That's awesome. I hopped right in. So
awesome. Dimitri, do you have any last minute questions you want to follow up with that?
I really appreciate that insight. I've just kind of been learning Spanish as well, just trying to take advantage of the time I have, especially trying to take advantage of that. So would you say now is a good time to start applying, or just still wait it out?
Well, I don't really know how much is getting posted now. But if you see something you like, if someone's posting something now, that means they really, really need it, because most companies I know are not hiring. So if they're posting it now, I would go for it, because that clearly means they're in a desperate need.
Yeah. So I worked with Stonebridge, and I really liked working with them. They said they'll call me as soon as something pops up, but at the same time, I don't want to wait too long. This is one of those things, like being patient, but also being aggressive and applying to positions that you never really thought you would apply for before, something you guys touched on. So, really appreciate the insight. Definitely look at some job applications in the future.
Awesome. Well, I just want to leave the chat open for another moment if anybody has any last minute questions. Otherwise, I will follow up with closing remarks. They're always quiet every time. It's like, ah, crap, now I have to say something on camera. Okay. Well, that being said, gentlemen, I just want to say thank you both for attending this virtual meeting today. I know we're adjusting to the new normal of what events is, but hopefully this was a nice insight on how it could be, because I feel like it went really positive. That being said, thank you so much. Thank you to people who asked questions in the chat. Thank you to my team who made this happen. Taylor also wanted me to state that she will be having a survey go out. It'll be on our homepage to have some feedback on things that we could work on for, the next event, or students in the next class, if they do this event, things that they can get better at. That being said, Dr. King, if you'd like to come on screen and just say thank you and all that good stuff, if you guys want to unmute your mics and say thank you.
Yes, I want to ask all of you to unmute and then your sincere thanks to them. Thank you, Rhonda. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Rich.
Thank you
You're very
guys.
welcome.
I really
Thank you.
enjoyed listening to you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Good job.
I miss you guys. I hope you're all doing well.